This would be a good time to go ahead and move into the next controversial thing that's going on, or quote unquote controversial, which is essentially they're crowbarring hosts or operators who are using a PMS into a single fee structure. So, Federico, what's your opinion on this change, and how do hosts adapt to this? If they are using the other structure, they'll have to use a single fee structure going forward.
Yeah, so I think that there's a background to cover in terms of like the fees and how things work. Starting by um, this was already the case for any country where Airbnb operates outside of like United States, Canada, Argentina, Uruguay, and probably another two or three countries. But Airbnb already had this structure internationally, and you gotta look a little bit back to understand how we got to this point. Number one, Airbnb for years had a running meme online that it was about the cleaning fees, right? Because I can tell you, Airbnb, and I got this information multiple times. If and actually, if you talk to your VRBO representative, if you have a VRBO representative call you to give suggestions to how to improve your listing, they're gonna tell you your cleaning fee shouldn't be more than a night of the stay. And honestly, it should be like 10% of the total stay. So cleaning fees has always been a friction point, especially when hosts were charging stupid amounts, right? Which was the case, and especially when hosts are charging stupid amounts and asking the guests to clean the house when they leave. So Airbnb was working on ways, because I can tell you many years ago, something I didn't know one was doing was splitting the cleaning fee with a management fee or resort fee that was included into the nightly rate. And I had the lowest cleaning fees in the market, but showing a little bit of a higher ADR. And I was crushing with that. Now, what Airbnb started doing was displaying the total price. Total price being, you see nightly rate, cleaning fee, Airbnb fees, pet fees, and any other fee in one number. And when you go to book that property, it's gonna show you taxes, and then you pay, because of course taxes have to be disclosed. Which is great, because again, it just removes that friction with the guest of extra fees. You should see that total price for the total stay. Now, Airbnb is again working on retaining their base customers, right? So they're saying, okay, if we change that psychology of, a lot of people are not going to be paying a service fee, they feel that they're saving money, which is great.
Yeah, I'm actually showing what you're talking about. I just pulled up Airbnb,
Yeah.
and the first thing it's telling me is, "Hey, you see the whole price, all fees included."
Yeah.
So it's just to show people that the branching in their marketing to go this direction that he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And do me one favor, click on Got It and do any random search in any market. Do like Dallas and flexible weekend, whatever it is.
Okay, so Dallas, what's do this weekend? Um, Friday to Monday. Guess
Yeah.
two.
Okay. I want you to pay attention to something. There's no way for you to tell from here how much is cleaning fee, how much is Airbnb fees, or if the host is using a split fee or not. Because you had the option to use it before. Like Airbnb is making it mandatory for PMS connected channels, but before you had the option to turn it on and say, I'm gonna take the fee and the guest is paying less. Again, you're just seeing the total, now you're seeing by the value of the final number. And then again, you see 378, 379, 309, and then you choose your property. So choose any other property. So I'll show you one more thing. So
And I'll click this one. Let me change my screen share and move
yeah,
it to the other screen.
While he's bringing that up, Federico, and I don't know if you've communicated this to your owners at this point, some of the changes, but do you foresee that some of them will try to make their managers opt out of PMS in order to avoid the fee? And in most
um,
scenarios, if they're unwilling to come on board, then you just drop in them as a client, right?
no, I mean honestly,
Not that that would happen, but maybe you have someone that doesn't know.
Well, what I did is I sent an email to everybody before they even find out, and I explained how we're gonna tackle this. I can share in a moment what I'm doing, but so if you scroll down a little bit, Elijah, and click on book now reserve, you can see here now that again you're seeing the total price. I'm getting back to this. The only way that you can tell if you're paying the fee or if the host is eating the fee is if you click on price breakdown. So if you click on price breakdown on the lower right side, there it is. You're gonna see the 3 nights, the service fee, and the taxes. Now, the difference with the new setup is that you're only gonna see 3 nights, total rate, and taxes, total taxes, and that's it. See, it's not even showing you the clean fee. I can tell you for sure the host has a clean fee, but it's not showing you that, or a pet fee. So my whole point with this is it's not going to affect you competitively if you mark up your rates, but you need to understand that you need to mark up your rates. And basically what you're going to be doing is the following. You're going to take your if you're working with a PMS, you're going to be impacted by this. If you're not working with a PMS, you don't need to worry about this. Now, if you're working with a PMS, every PMS has built in an option to mark up your rates. Marking up your rates meaning that from the price that you're showing your PMS, which most of the times is coming from Price Labs, Wheelhouse, or Beyond Pricing, whatever you're using, or the PMS self dynamic pricing tool, that price is getting distributed to different channels, and you can mark up those rates depending on the channel based on their fees. For example, Marriott fee is 18%. It's pretty high. Airbnb now is 15%. VRBO is 8%. Each platform has a different fee. So what you can say is, I'm going to mark up a percentage to cover for that fee. So what you do now is you need to do the math, which, how do you get to the same payout that before? And the exact number to get the exact same payout is like 14 point something percent. I'm just marking up 15.5. It's just a couple of cents. But if you're only marking up the difference, which is 12.5, you're going to be losing $2 per reservation. A property that makes $100,000 a year, you're losing $2,000 a year in fees. But for not marking up that difference of 3%. So when you mark up the rates, if you go back to the totals, and you don't need to actually go back, but if you see the search results, you don't really know how the fees or markups are applying, because at the end of the day, you're seeing the total price. So whether you're seeing $100 plus $14 to Airbnb, for example, on fees, or if you're seeing $115 total price with no fees, you're seeing the same price. For the consumer perception, there's no difference if you're marking up your rates, because what they're looking at is a total price. Now, the cool thing that you can do with this is you can say, I'm going to keep my rates exactly the same as the competition because I'm marking up that 15%, but I'm also advertising my property as no Airbnb fees, while there's a difference between the self non-PMS host and the PMS hosts. So I can do an advertising campaign where my listing is going to read, I'm not charging Airbnb fees, you are paying only nightly rate, and my prices are competitive on the market average. So I'm turning this situation into a win for now, because I have a competitive advantage, which is marketing and same payout. So that's why I see a lot of people freaking out. I don't get it. It's just like, take a moment to read the policy and how you can implement it. And it's definitely a win right now, because actually they're forcing the non-PMS hosts who don't know about this to be marking up, to be charging forcing their guests to pay a service fee. So, and I can tell you for sure, this is something that eventually is going to apply to all the listings. They're definitely testing it for just the PMS hosts, because they probably have less volume. Because if you have PMS, you probably have more than one channel, and you're not relying 100% on Airbnb. So I'm guessing that's the reason why they're staying with the PMS channels. But again, I see it as a win. At the moment, I'm making the most out of the situation. As long as you understand the math and how to implement it to make sure that it's not affecting your payouts, there's not much to worry about. It's an unpopular decision for sure, but also it's a way for Airbnb to retain guests booking on Airbnb, because we're going to start probably And I'm guessing they even gonna start marking the listings. This listing doesn't have, you know, how they have those different badges. Like this listing doesn't have a service fee or something like that.
Mhm.
So those are my 2 cents on this policy at the moment.
I love how you're take people are scared of math. Like I think most people are scared of math even in school.
I
And
was.
and look at you, here you are doing it, and it's putting you ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Probably even more so when it rolls out to everyone, and it won't just be people who are using the PMS.
Yeah. That's correct.
Yeah. So before we go to Mike, I do want to ask everyone that's watching, y'all can give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. Very much appreciate it. Of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. There's a lot of Airbnb content on this channel, and also there's content about how to succeed in real estate and hospitality in general. With that being said, Mike, what's your opinion on this whole thing with the fee for PMS users, and how are you working around it? Or what advice would you give to people who need to work around it?
So similar to what Federico mentioned, doing the markup is probably going to be your best bet. Um, and then go back to what I mentioned before about adaptability and some of the changes. And I know this has come, at least for now, between PMS users and non-PMS users, and maybe in the interim for those that are using a PMS and they only have one listing, maybe they don't need to be using a PMS, so maybe they'll, opt out of that. But again, it depends on their strategic approach, how they want to do their distribution. And at this point, if you really want to be able to have the distribution efficiently, a PMS is what's going to help you get there, right? Um, and with the adaptability with the changes, I mean, let's just say if it wasn't 15%, let's just say if it was 30%, do you think that they would actually lose more hosts? Maybe, maybe not. Because again, we talked about the number of people that are strictly on Airbnb. You'd be surprised that aren't even on VRBO, and those that again are on Airbnb and VRBO and nothing else. There's a lot of opportunity to have more distribution, and I think the less reliance. And I know everyone's at different stages. Federico, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and the earlier that you start with building the muscle, the practices, the operating procedures, and everything else that goes with direct booking, makes it that less of an impact, if you will. If let's just say, you know, only 50% or 40% of your bookings are on Airbnb, right? Um, so those kinds of things play a huge role into that particular strategy. But the markups, the markdowns, I mean, again, Federico mentioned with all the other platforms, we're kind of already doing something similar. So if we're doing VRBO, we do markups on that. If we're doing, other channels like Booking.com and so on and so forth, those also have markups from the PMS. So, and traditionally, technically, we've done markups on Airbnb. It hasn't been nearly as significant as VRBO and Booking, but we do that strategically just because and I know this is something probably a lot of people don't talk about, is price parity between platforms and even, I guess, listings too, if you can get to that level. And people that have larger portfolio have to consider that. And essentially, with price parity, you're trying to minimize the discrepancy, not discrepancy, but the price differential between um, platform to platform for the exact same property for the exact same dates, right? Um, and in some cases, if you want to drive traffic to one over the other, then you may go against some of those price parity rules, and you may, overly inflate on one or the other to push traffic towards one or the other. I know maybe some people don't think about that strategically, but we've done that before in the past, and it works very well actually. As Federico mentioned, people are looking; they're not just looking on typically one site; they're looking multiple places. Um, and there was a great platform. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Starts with an H. Um, we don't
Hopper.
use it anymore, but they basically had it to where you could connect. What'd you say?
No, sorry.
Oh. I can't remember the name of it, but basically it's where you could connect um, most of your distributions to the platform, and in addition to your direct booking site, and it would show the pricing side by side for I
Mm.
think up to like 5 or 6 different OTAs. And depending on how you marketed that, whether it's on your website, social media, so on and so forth, it could be a real driver for booking one place or the other. So things like that. Hopefully, I answered that. I know kind of went a roundabout way, but I think it all comes down to distribution, and then also how much traffic or focus you have on Airbnb versus other channels.
And let me add something on top of that, because you're making some interesting points. I was asking ChatGPT uh, how many Airbnb listings are in other platforms, and even though there's no exact number, and I read different numbers in the past, the estimate is like 79% of the listings are only on Airbnb. That's telling you a lot, because again, Airbnb has a lot of control over almost 80% of their inventory. Um, because again, a lot of the hosts are just working with Airbnb. They don't know anything else. They don't know how to connect or set up an account in anything else, or doing an OTA, a PMS. Like I remember once I went to Austin. I was chatting with my host. I went for Formula One, so we booked like a room or something like that. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I started doing this before COVID, and I started renting apartments, and I started putting on Airbnb." I was like, "Oh, you are arbitraging apartments?" And he was like, "What is that?" So he just like came out with this idea and started doing it, not knowing that it was like something very well done, unknown in the industry, right? Um, so again, we are in our own kind of like bubble where we know what OTAs are, connections, PMSs, and etc. Most of the hosts have no idea they should set up an Airbnb account because a friend told them they used Airbnb in the past. They saw that it was easy. Again, Airbnb makes it easy to list because if you think about it, they ask you 11 questions to set up an account. You create your sign in. They ask you 11, 19. It's a 19th the things they need to do. Put 5 photos, put a title, put like this and that. They hold your hand on the process, and then you're live. Then you can edit a lot of settings, and people don't know that, and that's gonna help you with optimization. But they make it super easy because they need to grab as many hosts as possible and as many guests as possible, and then retaining that host on Airbnb, making it easy, and making sure they're not driving, not moving to other platforms and OTAs, right? So that's what Airbnb did pretty smart as a business model. Um, so yeah, it's just like when we're looking at these changes, we need to consider that how many people are affecting, and then what is your strategy, what is your situation, do you have the option to pivot and distribute and have a diverse portfolio of like distribution channels, and at the same time, what is happening, why Airbnb can make those changes is because they have control of 80% of the inventory where they're only working with Airbnb, and whatever change they make is most likely like they're gonna stay with Airbnb for the moment, and we are already diversified enough that we're just gonna keep Airbnb, and I don't think anyone has decided to stop listing Airbnb and keep the listing on other channels. Like if you're removing your listing from Airbnb, you're removing the listing from everywhere. I haven't heard anyone saying I'm not gonna host anymore Airbnb and I'm gonna do Booking.com, stuff like that. Maybe 1 or 2 people.